There's one trend that I've consistently seen throughout my relationships, throughout just seeing other people's relationships, that is the biggest sign that a relationship or just an interaction with a woman, if it's long term, is going to be suitable for the man. There's one big sign, and this means that everything else is equal, right? You have the same values, potentially. You're both attracted to each other. You both have similar goals with each other. You would think, okay, this is great. There's alignment, right? The person's past doesn't bother you, right? Which means you have boundaries, you have specific things you do and she does as well that she will and will not tolerate. They respect your boundaries, et cetera, et cetera. Great. Now there's this one little piece. There's this invisible thread in all relationships with men and women, intimate relationships, that says it all, that will predict whether or not that relationship will be good or it will be completely sour and it'll be fucked. And that one thing is if you can start to entertain your intrusive thoughts out loud to the woman. Nobody talks about this. Nobody does. But this was a common trend for me because in previous relationships, I would not want to say my intrusive thoughts out loud. I couldn't even be my full authentic self in these relationships because I was always like, well, what if this offends the woman? What if this does, who gives a fuck? Here's the thing about the whole masculinity thing, right? You have to be unapologetically yourself regardless of how people feel about you. Because if you're not saying something that directly negatively affects that person and it's just a thought that you have, it may be some crazy thought that you don't tell the world. But if you can't tell it to the person that you're with that sleeps next to you every night or that is dating you, you shouldn't be with that person. Because what happens is you stop becoming your authentic self with that person. So now every time you're with that person, you put on a fucking mask and you have to play this monkey act and pretend to be somebody that you're really not. You're always hypersensitive to the person's emotions and shit like that. That's not a man's job. Typically, a woman is more hyper emotional about how a man feels and stuff like that. You as a man should not be like that. You should be who you fucking are. You should do what it is that you want to do. I'll give you a good example, right? In previous relationships, I'm somebody who talks out loud to myself often. It's probably why I know how to speak on camera. And in previous relationships, I would try to hold that shit back. I would want to talk out loud. I would make up an excuse. I would say like, oh no, I was just talking to somebody on the phone, or oh, I was just doing this, or I would make some smooth excuse for why I was talking out loud. I would never want to tell them that I just do that. That's part of my personality. I talk out loud to myself when I'm in the comfort of my own home to generate ideas. Smartest people talk to themselves. I'm not saying I'm smart, but I'm saying I've learned that talking to yourself is a positive trait, right? Especially when it comes to communication. I always talk to myself. I look in the mirror, talk to myself. Woman would hear, she'd say, wait, what's going on in there? And I'd be like, oh, I was just rehearsing this thing that I was trying to say for this specific thing. I'd make some fucking excuse. And that's minor, right? That's little. And it would go deeper. There would be political conversations. By the way, if a woman is hyper political, do not get with her. That shit is the worst possible experience you'll ever have. Some woman that's super hyper liberal or even super hyper conservative. I think that the best women don't care about fucking politics, bro. Because what is the point? It's true. So there would be these conversations and I'd be afraid of saying what I truly believed in. I would be afraid of saying controversial things because the woman would get inflamed if I said any little thing that went against her beliefs. You know what I mean? And this would continue to rock to where like I would feel so uncomfortable in this relationship that I would want to just figure out a way to leave. Like the minute the relationship was done, I was good. I was out. I was happy. I was doing my thing. I felt free. A lot of you have probably felt that way when you've been in relationships and shit doesn't work out. You end up becoming single and then all of a sudden you feel free. You feel good. You feel happy. You feel like there was a weight lifted off of your shoulders. You feel like you can be your authentic self because the person that you were with, you couldn't be who you truly were with. You can't. So now when I reflect on those moments and now in my relationship, my marriage currently, bro, I can do the dumbest shit. I can say whatever it is. I can entertain the stupidest thoughts in the world, the most stupid thoughts. I talk to myself out loud all the time. And my girl just looks and she smiles and laughs and is like, yeah, you do that. That's you. And it's all good. I can say what's uncomfortable to me. I can be very, very open. I can say what it is, like true desires. All this shit can be said out loud without feeling like I'm going to offend the person or feeling like I need to put on a mask with that person. Because that is fucking uncomfortable. That's why a lot of men don't want to live with women. Because when they live with a woman, they have to put on a fucking mask. They can't be who they truly are. And for me, my criteria was I need to be able to say my intrusive thoughts out loud. And within the first date, probably not, right? You don't know the person. Now you start talking to them consistently. You guys have some sort of a cadence where you're communicating. This is when you can start to throw out intrusive thoughts and test to see how she takes those things. You can say it as a joke, and sometimes it is just a joke, and see how she reacts to it. And how she reacts to it will tell you a lot about she's not congruent with you and your life. And that should already be a sign that this will not be something that works out. Now you might be thinking, what if my intrusive thoughts are super, super dark? Okay, well, you need to find a woman who can deal with that shit, because you're gonna have those thoughts regardless. You're gonna have those point of views regardless. You're gonna have those interests that you don't want other people to know, but maybe your significant other, if they know that shit, it's more comfortable for you. So you gotta find someone who can understand you at a deep level, who's interested in understanding you at a deep level, because a lot of women these days don't give a fuck about understanding their men at all. They just care about themselves. They just care about their own fucking, they care about their own things. And it's like, that's cool, but if the man is doing everything that he can to provide for you, because I don't believe in 50-50 relationships, I think it's bullshit. I think as a man you should provide, and if you cannot provide, you can just date, and you don't need to be in a real relationship until you have the ability to provide once you've provided for yourself. Always be self-sustaining before you bring another person into your life. It never ever works to where a man joins a woman's life, or a man moves in with a woman, or a man just enters a woman's world. That shit doesn't work. You lose your frame as a man, and now you're in the frame of the woman, which makes her resent you because she's looking for a frame to get into. Right? And it's the same when you say your intrusive thoughts, it is you putting a frame together, and you're inviting her subconsciously to enter that frame and entertain that frame. And a woman who rejects that frame, that's when you're like, fuck this. So that's what you have to understand with this whole thing. And a lot of men don't realize this, and a lot of men get stuck, and a lot of men lose a lot of time and a lot of effort because they thought the relationship was going to go really, really well. They thought that was the woman that they needed to be with. And then they start to, the mask starts to crack, and there's holes in it, and now their true self comes out, and the woman starts to be like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden there's issues and problems and shit like that. When that happens, you're cooked. And you have to unlock that mask. You have to take that mask off early. You have to say your intrusive thoughts early, because that's the biggest sign. That is the biggest sign. My mic just died, but that is the biggest sign that you're going to have a successful relationship. That's the biggest sign. So I say this to say, make sure that you are genuinely with somebody who can take your intrusive thoughts, joke around with it, and even tell you their intrusive thoughts, and you're okay with that, because now you're both being your authentic self. Now it all works. All right? So I hope this video is valuable for you. I wanted to make it a little quick. Usually it's 20 minutes, but this is short because my mic just died. But hope this was valuable. Again, links will be in the description if you want to tap in with any of my courses, programs. I work with guys one-on-one. If you are a man who is making good money, you are in decent shape, but you're struggling with women, you're struggling with understanding who you are, you're struggling with finding fulfillment, with figuring out what that golden thread in your life needs to look like to live a more fulfilling life, because you've already gotten the looks, you've already gotten the money, you've already gotten the status, but the women piece is a little stuck, right? I'm basically the hitch. I'm the hitch for high-level men, right? People said I look like Will Smith. Well, now I'm taking on the fucking role. So I hope this was valuable for you. Hopefully you can hear me through this and the wind isn't going crazy. But I will catch you on the next video. I appreciate you for watching.